And we are back with another episode of the 6 Yard Line podcast. And as you can see, my co-host, Noel. Oh, where are you?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
you're right.
you're over there.
I am over
Noel
there.
is back. I always get it mixed up. But yeah, he is back. He had a few days away watching the other kind of football.
Yeah, it was yeah, nice to get away and watch a game, and I went to watch two teams I don't support, but it's always good to kind of go and see what the rest of the NFL's like. So yeah, Tennessee Titans, they're building a new arena actually right next door to their current Nissan Stadium. The new one looks like it's going to be badass, like retractable roof for so they can host Super Bowls and stuff. And I think Nashville, it's pretty good for country shows. I think they'll put on a pretty good Super Bowl. I'd be a lot more excited to watch it there than San Fran. So yeah, it'd be nice if the Packers made it, but we'll see. But no, it's good. It's always good to get away. Unfortunately, I woke up on Saturday morning and I decided to turn on the TV, and sure enough, the Forest Arsenal game was already in full swing, and Forest already 1-0 down. So didn't improve, and I didn't catch a lot of games this weekend, but that's the one I did sit and watch, as you can imagine. And yeah, the Ange Postecoglou era started as I predicted, with a defeat at Arsenal, because again, it is, what did he have, 5 days to get them set up, and he obviously has a very different theory and setup compared to Nuno.
Yeah.
And you kind of, I think I said it to you before I left. I said I already written it off. The minute Nuno was sacked, I already written the Arsenal game off. It's going to take time, to figure out how he wants to play. The reaction, I think, to a lot of people, that followed Forest, and I think the fan base is split 50-50. Everyone's obviously always going to be back the manager, which I think is the right thing to do. Um, you know, I think everyone's heard me say it. I don't like his style. I don't like his tactics. I don't like the way he plays. I think you need to have pragmatism in the Premier League. This isn't Scotland. You're going to need to defend at some point, and
Yeah.
you know. But again, as you say, we gotta back the guy that Marinakis has put in charge, and we'll see how it goes. And it's always nice to be proved wrong. I wasn't overly excited about Nuno, to be honest. So that was, that was, it is what it is at this point. But Arsenal were obviously a well-oiled machine. They've added players that I think fit them well. Gyökeres obviously got his goal, and I thought Eze was fantastic. I thought he was very good. Looked every part of an Arsenal player should do, and they put Forest to the sword, and you can only beat who you can beat. But Forest were disjointed. I think if anybody watched the game, they saw the new players come on, Bakwa and Calmuendo. They both looked very threatening, very promising. And, Forest probably didn't deserve to lose 3-0, but they certainly were the second best team by a long way in this game. And I don't really, you know, it's one of those, it is what it is. You took on a top team, you got beat because, there's quality difference. But what I would say, though, from a concern that I have, is Morgan Gibbs White, since the second game of the season, has looked really off. He
Yep.
looked sloppy again. I thought he was terrible at West Ham. He came off, and McAtee was much more fluid in that position. And I thought the subs came on and made a bit more of a fight of it than the team that started. Chrissy Wood had only what you could describe as a chest towards goal with a fantastic save from David Raya. I still trying to work out how he got that much power off his chest, but it was hey, it's an effort. If it had gone in, it would have been one of those goals you want
It
to put that
would
up
have
there
been
as a goal,
brilliant. Would have been brilliant. I saw that and I was like, wow.
because
Well,
he was full
yeah.
at this angle, and it just like
Yep.
there's
Yep.
just a dip on it, which I don't know how you get dip off your chest, but yeah, it was pretty fantastic effort. But no, at the end of the day, he's not. He's also not been getting the service the last couple of games too. So I think I think Forest have Burnley this week. You and me were just talking about it offline. It's a good game to get. I think they need a team where they feel they can hold the ball and press. And we just saw Burnley hang with Liverpool for 90 plus minutes, and then you know
I'll give my take on. I won't use the word hang with them when you play such a horrible style of football. Like it was, if you're a casual and you turn that game off, you would be like thinking it's one of the worst football matches you've ever seen, and that was bad. But I have some questions about your game because I watched the game and um, I agree. You and I had a conversation about Morgan Gibbs White after the game because he did look horrible. I thought, and this is no knock on Matt Sells because think Matt Sells has been one of the top keepers over the past couple of years in the league, but he just didn't have his A game. Again, not to blame him on the goals, but he just looked off. Um, are you concerned with Andrew's playing style and the current roster? Like you just lost one of your defenders in Murillo. Hopefully it's not a serious injury, but like he likes his players to be, high possession, always on the attack.
I think Forest have more depth than Spurs did last year. If I look at them right now,
Is
they're all a little
is
bit
that
unproven. But
right?
like I think when you look at what Ange is, and you look at what the way he wants to play, what Forest has got in abundance is pace, power, and if you're going to play on the counter, we saw it last year. Forest are very good, and if Ange wants to play a little bit more aggressive, counter-attacking, free-flowing, all-out attack football, he's got the horses to do it. Do I think Matt Sells and some of those guys might have a hard time adjusting? Yeah, I do think that's going to be what it is. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi looked a little bit lost this weekend, and I think that's more. You always get that sometimes when you've been playing so well with a certain style of football, and then you go 180 on the other direction to try and change it. So I do generally think that there is going to be a bit of a grace period in terms of he's got to get something going. But at the end of the day, this is also, and this is the bit that it's taking me a little bit of a while, but we've mocked Spurs for not winning anything,
Yep.
and he's the guy that actually won them something. So for the most part, you kind of got to go with, look, there's a reason Marinakis picked him. Yes, I know part of it is because he likes his aggressive style. He likes the fact that he's on the front foot. And it does help that he's got Greek background too, which Marinakis likes, and he's big in his Greek heritage. So, you know what? I think that's fine. I think all that stuff's good. Do I think it's the best decision? I don't know. I don't think I will know until I've seen 6 or 7 games. And I think for the most part, with what Forest were doing with Nuno this year, other than the very first game, hasn't really been. There's clearly some disconnect somewhere in that group, and hey, we look at the start Spurs got to last year, and I think the wheels didn't come off the bus till really late in the season, and then they still managed to ride the bus all the way to the Europa League final. So I think that's kind of what it is. But yeah, it is what it is. It's a new manager. It's a new Forest. It's a new style. It's a complete new way of playing. I was looking at the table right now, and you're down there in the bottom 5 and bottom 6 or whatever it is. So you've got to get points soon, and you've got to pick up a result against Burnley to, because the pressure builds, right? And I think, it's a bit like Arsenal needed to make sure they keep winning because everyone's, on that. It's Arsenal, Liverpool to lose the title, which I think you and me both agree on that. I think everybody else is just miles off it. Chelsea's Jekyll and Hyde. Man United, they're just miles
We'll
off it.
touch on that. We'll touch on them in
We'll
a
touch
bit.
on them later, but they're miles off it, and people talking about them going to finish 5th in the league. Not right now, they're not.
But
So
you and I had them finishing the top 6, if I'm correct.
yeah, I think we have 6, but
But you're right. You're right. Clearly, I think we were judging it on more expectation versus what the reality is totally different. Um,
yeah,
before,
I think we'll get onto that game in a bit. But I
yeah,
just think when it comes down to it, I think Arsenal, added, you and me said it off air, like it was just, I think Arsenal added players that fit their style and fit their system, and I generally think if Liverpool hadn't spent 400 million on players, I think I would have probably put Arsenal top, because I think what they added was what they needed, and they added strength and depth, and they've got a couple of injuries. And when you've got Eze coming in to a team for for various players being out injured, I think you're just showing what kind of strength they've got across the board. So at the end of the day, Arsenal were by far better the team, and the only thing I thought Forest looked good was the couple of the subs that looked pretty decent. The new away kit looks freaking gorgeous. I do own it, but it looks even better on the green grass. But that was my positives. There's not a lot that you could say about this game. I just, Forest, once they were 2-0 down, I was pretty much resigned to it being over. Then it was 3, and then you're like, okay, just don't lose any more.
Okay, so we did have a chat before. I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday, and we both kind of said, you know what, the expectation is not, Forest isn't going to win. Yes, sometimes you get that new coach bounce, but when you're going up against a team like Arsenal, there was a lot of expectations for you guys to get a result. If you could, walk away with a draw, that would have been great. But on paper, I think it was fair to have an expectation of Arsenal winning. Now, forget about Ange's first game. Where do you see the team move, like with him coming in, transitioning to his style of play? You have Europa League starting what next? The conference, is it? You guys are in the
No, Europa League. So right now
that's next week.
They've got League Cup this Wednesday,
Yeah.
Swansea. Then it's the 20th. They have Burnley, which is next Saturday, and then the 24th they're away to Real Betis. So, the team Anthony just signed for. Again, I think the good thing is you've got a game. You've got a game against Swansea that you could put your best team out, and I would think they would put their best team out. They wouldn't start dicking around with the lineup, right? I think you put your best team out to try and make sure that you can kind of get some unity, cohesion and all that kind of stuff. So I think, Wednesday night you'll see a very strong Forest side out, just to kind of get more of an understanding how Ange plays. But I think if you take the next 3 games, they'll tell you an awful lot about what Forest is going to do and where they're going to be. Because I think, like I said, I don't know where they're going to finish. I don't know how they're going to look, because we just don't really know what to expect from Ange. We don't really know what to expect, because we all have this thing in our mind where we're going to play Ange ball, but he kind of got away from that towards the end of the season, and he played a little bit more pragmatic. But I don't know what he's going to do, and I think that's a full week of the players again this week, and getting everybody back. So it's a tough one.
My last point, or my last question, because I think going into the League Cup game this week, I actually think it would make more sense to kind of rotate the roster. I think you need to prioritize certain competitions this year, right?
Yeah,
You're
but
back in
I
Europe.
think you do that in later rounds. I think if it
But
becomes
see,
an issue, but I think you also got to look, and they need, with no preseason together. There wasn't much preseason together even under Nuno, because the players all came in rather late.
Yeah.
So that's obviously that was kind of one of the Nuno things that was grinding his gears. It was the fact that it wasn't done quicker, faster. But again, as we've talked about on the show before, that was because it was by design, because he wanted to know how much money you've got from the Europa League coming in, so where your FFP comes in. So I think there's a lot of things to kind of look at. I think normally, yes, I would agree with you. You kind of put Jason McAtee in, and you put Hutchinson, and maybe he'll do that. But I think because you've just had such little window to prep with them, I think you kind of have to see how they can handle the way you want to play.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. I guess for what I would like to see is them prioritize doing well in Europe, and maybe at least one of the domestic competitions, you kind of say, you know what, let's give maybe some of our younger, less experienced, right? Because I worry that you guys won't finish in a European spot this season, and your only chance for European survival is how you finish.
Yeah, I just think I just think
It's tough. It's tough.
you just need them to play together. Whoever
Yep.
who he feels is the best starting 11, right? And
Yep.
no, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see Callum Owendo play this weekend against Swansea to give him a run, because he did look like he was causing Arsenal problems, right? So he was all over the place.